Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make an ice-dyed Hemostat Mandala. The shirt was prepped like normal and I have it turned inside out. I'm going to start by centering the shirt, so this process is going to go really fast, but down below in the description for this video, I have a link to another video which shows how to center a shirt. Essentially what I'm doing is getting both sides of the front of the shirt right up next to each other and both sides of the back of the shirt right up next to each other. That way, whenever I apply the dye to the shirt, the front is going to look more similar and symmetrical, and so will the back. Now it's time to fold the mandala. I'm going to place the mandala on both the front and the back side of the shirt. And I'm going to draw a line using a washable marker where I'd like for the center of my mandala to be. Then placing my finger on that mark that I just drew, I'm going to fold the hem of the shirt up toward the top of the shirt, and then I'm going to grab the hem and pull it partway back down. Now I'm going to grab the seam and lift the shirt up off the table and fold it in half. The side facing me has two folds. I'm going to grab one of those folds and fold it in half. Then turn the shirt over and do the same thing on the other side. This fold gives an 8-point mandala. I could make another fold on each one of the sides to make a 16-point mandala, but that's a little too thick for the hemostats to work. Then I'm going to use my washable marker and I'm going to mark where the neck of the shirt is so that I don't extend my hemostats beyond that area. I'm using an 8-inch curved hemostat, which I'm going to place at an angle at the very end of the shirt. Then from here, I'm going to use 10-inch and 12-inch curved hemostats. I'm starting with the 10-inch hemostats and I'm facing them down toward the center of the mandala. I'm alternating going back and forth on each side, and I'm not taking the hemostats all the way to the very edge of the shirt. I'm stopping them and placing the end of the hemostat right up next to the hemostat that was before it. When the shirt gets really thick, I switch over and start using 12-inch hemostats. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there and not add any more hemostats to the shirt. For the rest of the shirt, I'm going to unfold that area just a little bit, then scrunch it and hold the folds in place with some rubber bands. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that thick folds like mandalas, I generally like to allow to dry out completely before I apply the dye. So that's what I'm going to do with this shirt, is I'm going to put it on a metal rack and set it aside for a few days and let it dry out completely. If you're wondering why I like to do that, it's so that I can get better color saturation in the center of the mandala. If you've ever seen a tie-dyed mandala that has big long white streaks in the shirt, generally that's because it was dyed while it was damp. If you want a little bit more information about this, I have a tie-dye blog out on my website and I address this topic. There's a link down below in the description for this video for my website. I'm going to ice dye the mandala, and I've chosen some pink and purple colors. So here I have the mandala placed on a rack, and I'm using my silicone cake molds to make myself an ice barrier. I'm using some wooden clothespins to attach to the metal rack to hold the silicone cake molds up close to the shirt. It's a little extra challenging because I have the hemostats on this other area of the shirt. So I'm going to take the silicone cake molds and fold them and put them in between the hemostats. Then to hold the silicone cake molds in place, I'm attaching wooden clothespins in between the cake molds. The hemostats are at an angle, so it's not very easy to attach the clothespins to the rack. But by attaching them to the silicone cake molds, that helps hold the whole entire thing in place. I also have a link for the silicone cake molds down below in the description. I try to put links to the dye colors that I used on a shirt and a lot of the other tie-dye items that I use down below in the description. Before I start applying the dye to the shirt, I'm going to lightly spray the entire shirt with a little bit of soda ash solution that I've placed inside of a spray bottle. This will help the dye kind of stick to the top of the shirt better. I'm beginning down at the very end of the shirt with boysenberry from Pro Chemical and Dye. Then I'm going to skip a space, add some more boysenberry, skip another space, and one more section of boysenberry. To add a little bit of depth to my mandala, I'm going to put a little bit of dark cherry from Dye Spin right up next to the hemostats. I forgot to add it before I added the boysenberry, so it will be a little easier to see what I'm doing in the sections that I haven't applied the dye to yet. I'm sorry, for some reason my video camera keeps kind of going in and out of focus. I haven't figured out why it keeps losing focus like that. In the two remaining sections, I'm going to add mulberry from Pro Chemical. Then to add dimension to the other side, I'm going to use huckleberry from Dye Spin right up next to the hemostats, just like I did with the dark cherry. Then in every other section, I'm going to add strawberry from Custom Colors, and in the other two sections, I'm going to add raspberry from Dharma. For the rest of the shirt, right up next to the hemostats, I'm going to place a little bit of vintage purple from Dye Spin, and then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that vintage purple up into the scrunched portion of the shirt. I'm also going to sprinkle some dusty purple from Pro Chemical and Dye and ultraviolet from Dharma in that area. I want to use darker colors in this area because I want the mandala portion of the shirt to kind of pop out. Then over the entire shirt, I'm going to put a little sprinkle of dry soda ash, just to make sure I have plenty of soda ash in the shirt after all of the ice melts and runs through the shirt. Then I'm going to add on a layer of ice. I came back after this first layer of ice melted, and there was quite a bit of dye that hadn't dissolved left sitting on top. So I added a second layer of ice and continued to allow the shirt to process. After the second layer of ice melted, I went ahead and added a third layer of ice just in a couple of areas. There were a few areas that needed a little bit more ice, mainly in the scrunch portion, just to force some of that dye on through to the bottom part. I looked at the bottom and the dye had come through really well after the third layer of ice, so I just left the shirt alone and I allowed it to process for about 24 hours. For part of that time, I put a lid on this container and set the shirt outside in the hot summer heat. This is what the shirt looked like right before I began rinsing. And as you can see, the color went through really well to the back side. I started rinsing the shirt in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I took the hemostats off the shirt and untied the shirt and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a long time, I added some hot water to my utility sink, along with a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent, and allowed the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out and continued the soaking process until the water was almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's textile detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. And once the shirt was washed and dried, this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I really like this one. I think it turned out looking really pretty. I love the color combination, and I like having the darker color right up next to the hemostats because it almost makes this design look 3D. It gives a little dimension to the design, and I like that effect. I also like the colors that I used in the scrunch portion. The green is coming out of the dusty purple. If you've never used that color, it's a really cool color, and the first time I ever used it, I was a little nervous because the dye is actually green. It does end up purple, but the green split that comes out of it is really cool. That's what you see up on the sleeves of the shirt. I also love the effect that hemostats make on a mandala. One question that I get asked a lot is, can I make a hemostat mandala shirt without the hemostats? And the answer to that is no. I mean, hemostats give a totally different look to the shirt, and there's really not any way to achieve that exact look without using hemostats. You can tie a really cool mandala, but it won't look like a hemostat mandala. So I love this shirt, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. Drop me a few comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed watching me make the mandala and enjoyed watching the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.